The subjects agency and partnership were added to the California bar exam in 2007. They are now tested with corporations under the subject of business associations. Here we're going to go over how agency and partnership is tested, and we'll also go over some of the highly tested issues in agency and partnership. First, let's talk about how agency and partnership is tested. Sometimes this is tested on its own, and sometimes it's tested as a crossover question with corporations. Remember that all three of these subjects together are now labeled business associations by the California law examiners. So technically, they don't consider this a crossover question if they're all tested. Each of the previous agency and partnership questions tested general law, so this is not a subject where you need to learn any California distinctions. Next, let's talk about the highly tested issues in agency and partnership essays. We'll start with agency. Within agency, the two issues that we see tested the most are authority and vicarious liability. Authority is an issue when one person, the agent, acts on behalf of someone else, the principal, and the question is whether the principal is bound by the agent's conduct. For example, if an employee signs a contract on behalf of the corporation he works for, is the corporation liable for that contract? The answer is yes if the agent acted with authority. The two types of authority that we see come up most often are actual authority and apparent authority. When this is an issue on an essay, you should discuss both types of authority, even if it's obvious that there is only one type of authority present. Actual authority can be express or implied. Express actual authority is where the agent is expressly given authority to act for the principal. For example, if an employee is told to go buy supplies for the corporation, that employee has express actual authority to make that purchase. Implied actual authority is where the principal's conduct led the agent to believe that he has authority to act. For example, if the principal asks the agent to run an errand and the agent has to pay for parking to run that errand, the agent likely has implied authority to use a company credit card to pay for parking, and the principal will be liable to pay that debt. The other type of authority is apparent authority. There are two elements that must be met for an agent to have apparent authority. First, the person dealing with the agent must do so with a reasonable belief in the agent's authority. And second, the belief must be generated by some act or neglect on the part of the principal. So let's say, for example, the principal introduces his client to his employee. The employee then handles some matters for the client. The client reasonably believes that the employee has authority to act on behalf of the principal, and this belief was generated by the principal's act of introducing the employee to the client. So the employee would have apparent authority in this instance, and the principal would likely be bound by whatever actions the employee takes for the client. The other issue that often comes up in agency questions is vicarious liability. Vicarious liability is the idea that a principal may be liable for the torts committed by his or her agent. The rule is that a principal will be liable if the agent was acting within the scope of employment, if the agent made a minor deviation from employment, or if the agent committed an intentional tort that was for the principal's benefit, that the principal authorized, or that arose naturally due to the nature of the employment. So for example, if a pizza delivery driver gets into an accident while delivering a pizza, and the other driver sues, the pizza company, the principal, would be liable for the delivery driver's negligence because the accident occurred while the driver was acting within the scope of his employment. In questions testing partnership, we see two issues commonly tested: partnership formation and partnership liability. With regard to partnership formation, a partnership, by definition, is an association of two or more persons to carry on as co-owners a business for profit, whether or not the persons intended to form a partnership. This can be tricky because the partners don't have to sign any agreement, they don't have to file anything with the state, they don't even have to intend to form a partnership. But if they intend to carry on a business as co-owners, then they can be deemed a partnership. One fact that you should look for to determine if a partnership exists is profit sharing. If the individuals are sharing profits from the business, this actually creates a presumption that a partnership has been formed. They can, however, rebut this presumption by showing that the money distributed to each person was not for the purpose of sharing profits, but instead was for something else, such as payment of wages or repayment of a debt. Finally, the last issue is partnership liability. Once a partnership has been formed, the partners are jointly and severally liable for all torts committed by employees or partners in the ordinary course of business, or that are committed with the authority of the partnership. So let's say, for example, that my friend and I start a business selling cupcakes. At the end of the week, we split any profits we make equally. Well, one day my friend was busy, so I went out by myself and I sold some cupcakes, and one of the customers ended up getting food poisoning. So the customer sued our partnership, while my friend and I are jointly and severally liable for the lawsuit brought by the customer. There is no protection from liability in a partnership like there is in a corporation, so my friend and I would be personally liable for the entity's debts. The final tip for agency and partnership is to practice. Agency and partnership has not been frequently tested on the California bar exam, but when it is tested, the issues are usually pretty straightforward. So doing some practice essays will help you prepare for those common issues that are most likely to come up in an agency and partnership essay should this subject be tested. You'll notice that there are some suggested practice essays that you should complete that are identified in the essay guide. These include the February 2020 agency and partnership question, the February 2015 agency and partnership question, and the July 2014 agency and partnership question.